Good morning.
Morning,
What's
good
up,
morning.
Carl?
What's up? What's up? We're here in another edition of the Site Strategy Moments, and it has been a beautiful week so far. It's been a beautiful week.
Yes, I must say we've had some great conversations
Yes,
throughout the week. And I want to say a little, it almost feels like all the games have been stepped up a notch. Everybody's
yeah,
expertise has just been flowing and overflowing into the community. So I'm loving that. I'm loving this week. This week was very productive, very insightful.
yes,
I think this is a great way to end it off too. Diving into
absolutely.
what your field is, your
Oh,
your specialty,
we about to talk about
Mr.
it.
Vulnerability. Yes.
We about to talk about it. We're about to get vulnerability 101. I love putting things in the classroom structure that gets everybody's attention, that you know you're about to learn. So that's it.
Yes, yes. And I want to say welcome, good morning to everyone. I'm
Good
seeing
morning,
Shri, I see you. I
Andrea.
see
Good
you,
morning.
Andrea. What's up?
Oh,
It's
yeah,
been
how
a
y'all
long
doing?
time. I got to have a
Yeah, we got to
chat with
catch up
you.
because you've been around the world
Yes.
and ay. I feel like this month. But
uh
yeah,
yeah, so we do this for 30 minutes. This is our mini series, and next month, this has been going so well, so next month we got another mini series planning, so look out for that. Listen out for those details coming soon. But let's jump into today is
jump
about
into it.
showing that vulnerability, being vulnerable is not just for social media. Because, a lot of times people want to tell their deepest stories, they want to give their everything and their all
Yeah,
online, but I always say you're doing it on the wrong platforms. And it's not that you shouldn't do it on social media. However, God forbid you lose access to all of that, all of those communications. People are dropping comments to you, people are supporting you, they're loving you up. They're going to share all of these insights that you're giving in the midst of you being vulnerable in your journey to being vulnerable. And if something happens and you lose that account, you lost all of that. So why not bring that to your website? Allow that space, create a space, because your website, you can do whatever you want. It doesn't have to just be business. That's why the blogs come in place. That's where the audio podcasts come in place. That's where a lot of these different video vlogs come into place. You have opportunities to show a different side of you, even on your about page. And that's what we're going to go into. And I wanted to start off with our myth buster. Showing your vulnerability is showing that you're weak. Now, we already know, we've had so many conversations about this, and more people are saying that they're vulnerable, are saying that, look at me, this is what I've been through, especially because of the pandemic. We were all in a bad space at one point or another in that time. What have you noticed, Carl, as a way for you to try to break this myth?
well, I've noticed it just even to give to people. The greatest way to break this myth is confidence in self. A lot of times people talk about being self-aware. That's key, but that's in the operation of. And you can't be in the operation of embracing your vulnerability if you're not comfortable in yourself. I know they use the term, and it's probably been a catch term that's been used over and over again: get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's so very true in that. It's more than a cliche because what it's saying is that there are some things about me that I'm not too comfortable with others knowing, with sharing with others. So I got to get to a place not of oversharing, but I get to a place of
Mhm.
where this is who I am, and I'm owning that. I'm being accountable for that, whether that be actions, bad moves, mistakes, judgments, whatever it be. I'm going to take the shame out of that because it's just something that happened in your life, and we've all have been through it. So it's a real myth to think that that makes you weak because you've came from a place of making a mistake and overcome it. That makes no sense to me.
Yes, and for me, I was always that. I would always tell you that. What, being vulnerable? Like, what do you want me to do? And it was a misconception on my part, but also this is what I always saw,
Yeah.
especially from a woman's standpoint. You're crying on camera, you're telling your deepest personal issues on camera, like, and I wasn't raised to share your business in the street. That's how it was, right?
Hmm.
Keep your business in the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let you got to work, find a way to work that out. But
Yeah.
more and more, and like I said, especially during the pandemic, people have really been opening up more. And now it's almost, now you have to figure out, is this legit? Is somebody playing me because they know I will pour my heart into somebody who seems to be getting vulnerable? And we're going to talk about that a little bit too, on how not to get into those vulnerability scams. That's
Yeah.
something we got to pay attention to. But with that, there's a question on the play, and I want you to answer this.
Mhm.
Um, and it came from Andrea, and she's like,
Yeah.
Andrea, she's like, does vulnerability work in every business? How does it help you in various industries?
Vulnerability is cross industry, and how I say that is because uh, I'm the truth of it. I've worked in every industry. I've worked in science. I've worked in government. I've worked in mortgage. I've worked in finance. So, and right now I'm in law. So I've covered all of those spectrums, and each one of those I carried me with me to me. So I've been vulnerable in all those areas. The key part of vulnerability and what we need to understand, and Charlene hit it right on the head, in the essence of that, it does work in every business because vulnerability is married to authenticity. And no matter how authentic you claim to be, either as a leader, as a worker, a perspective, a client, whatever it is, you can't be authentic if you're not truly being who you are. Now, when we go to authentic oftentimes get married with saying, "Oh, the real." He's got to be authentic because he's real. There's levels to this, just like there's levels to anything. Vulnerability is something that you have power over. You have the power over letting anyone in and closing anyone out. That's the key to it. But we always choose the greatest objective, which we think will do us the greatest by closing everything out. Well, that same door, by you having the key to vulnerability that you lock yourself into a safe closet, it's the same one that you keeping out those that have greater connection for you, those that have deeper relationships for you, those that have doors that you need to walk through. But you've closed off those connectors based on the fear of something that you already have control over. We have this fear of being vulnerable with people when we have the control over what we want to be vulnerable with. It's not an essence of me just saying, "Oh, I grew up as a crack baby, I've been on drugs," or all of that. It's not about even throwing out all of your dirty laundry. It's about understanding that you've overcome something. Someone may be going through that, and they need to hear how you made it over. That's where vulnerability wins, and this is where I think we miss the narrative of what really is beneficial about being vulnerable.
And I would even go into a little deeper for a business perspective, right?
Mhm.
A lot of times businesses ventures fail for us. So that's part of being vulnerable in business. So
Yes.
if you had like a major campaign, a lot of times we can't really dive into the logistics or the details, but the experience, that's where the vulnerability exposure can come in. So if you're a business and you're saying to yourself, you know what, this campaign, it just didn't do what we thought it would do. Maybe it brought in a few dollars, maybe it brought a few more eyes, but it just wasn't what we envisioned. So then now you have a lesson learned moment,
Yeah.
and you can present that to your people, you can present that to your audience in terms of a small micro series of on your website, on your blog. You can say, you know what, these are things that we learned, and we want to help you get better in your business. And this especially works if you are a business that services another business, and you are showing them, these are the stumbles we took in along the way, and this is why we created our product. This is why we have this new process that we're doing, or this is why we depend so heavily on our team, because these are the things we learned along the way. So those are ways that you can be vulnerable without giving away all of your information or giving away all of you and your essence as a business. So I hope that that was a good explanation. But thank you so much for that
Yes.
question. And we do
Appreciate that
have
question.
another one from Shri. And Shri was saying, how do you help people be comfortable showing their vulnerability?
First, you have to understand. I made a I always call my creations an equation, and it's called CT4. And what I do, I walk a client through circumstances. I walk them through thoughts, feelings, actions, and results. Now, those acronyms each mean everything, and then I walk them through understanding how to be comfortable in that. In this circumstances or what you're in, how does that make you feel? What's your thoughts on those? And I link each one back to each other. And we just walk through a series of questions so I can get a clear, vivid picture. And the funny thing about this, if I can call it funny, people get that picture as well as I get. And then it starts to be an aha in that. So we talk about circumstances and we talk about your thoughts toward those circumstances. And then after that, we talk about your feelings. That's what the F is for. How does your feelings make you feel to make you think this about this circumstance you're in? What does the circumstances bring in you, and what actions are you going to take to resolve the circumstances so you can be comfortable in that? And then we go with the results. Through doing all the earlier parts of that equation, what results are you starting to see? And then we replicate those results where we bring it to an essence of a 1, 2, 3. You got to get uncomfortable. I tell everybody when you're dealing with your vulnerability, do something uncomfortable. And that doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be uncomfortable. Sri, you know this as well. Video is very uncomfortable to a lot of people. Take practice in doing that. Get familiar with how that feels to you. Start identifying why it makes you feel like that. And in essence of that, then you will start grappling some of the tools you need to be successful in that. And then you'll find out that you'll start doing things that made you uncomfortable more. And that's where that terminology comes from. Get comfortable being uncomfortable, because it changes the directory and the narrative of how you feel about what's making you feel this way. Because vulnerability is just a word, just like any other word. And we've made it a bad word, so to speak, because we've attached things of our past, what people have said about us, into our vulnerability. And therefore, we won't allow anyone else to even see or judge us for who we truly are or accept us for who we are.
Yeah, so let's go into and just want to do a recap of
Yeah.
what is vulnerability, because to get comfortable, you need to know what you're getting comfortable with. And vulnerability, like you said, it comes in different shapes. It comes in different forms, but the ultimate part of it is, and I feel a lot of people don't do this. I think you should know who you are first. You can't be vulnerable with people if you don't even know who you are. You don't even know what you're being vulnerable about. Is this legit? Are you telling a story just to tell the story? Are you telling the story just to get money, just to get clients? Why are you telling this story? Are you even connected to this story? Are you creating a feeling that's false? And it's false because this is not really how you feel. This is not really something that you cared about. This didn't move you. This is not passionate for you. And for me to get clients comfortable on their websites, I ask them all the time, why did you get in business? Why do you get up in the morning? Why do you keep pushing forward? What's the purpose of your business? And if they can't answer that question, then they're not ready to create a website. They're not ready to connect to that website. And that's because the website is, I see it as your foundation for your marketing. This is where you're going to put a lot of your information on so that you can allow people to understand what your services are, and then say, yes, you're the one that I want. Because let's face it, there's so many people that do what we do already. So why should they pick you to work with? And that's where the vulnerability comes in. That's where understanding your purpose and your story, that's how that becomes a connection opportunity for you. It's not, and that it's not false, because that's why you do it. Everybody asks, why do you start a website business? Why did you start helping people create websites? It wasn't because I just wanted you to have a website. No, I saw women in my community, Black women in particular, who were in business over 10 years. They were staples in the community. But what was the issue? They were only staples to those who knew them. And I knew the website would allow them to be online and have a presence, build a presence. And they didn't have to do a lot of that work. The work became in the foundation of it, like with anything that we do. So that's why I started. I started because I knew these women needed to be out there. They needed to be found easily. So that's where my passion came in. And then it started to evolve when I realized so many more people, it wasn't even, the struggle wasn't even the website. The struggle was they didn't understand how to connect to the website. They didn't understand how to connect their business to the website. So now the education part comes in. This is why you connect. This is why, if you don't understand your purpose, you're never going to connect, and you're always going to be all over the place. And it's not that social media is bad, but social media should be amplifying what you're doing on your site, what you're doing in your business. And if you're not using that as an amplifier, but you're using that as your foundation, you got a lot of problems ahead. So I just wanted to make sure that people understood that. So if you know you're starting a nonprofit, you're starting a business to help manufacturers, you're starting a business to help other bloggers, or even other people who are trying to get into PR, public relations, you're trying to help people who are who want to be nurses, you have to understand why. Why do you care if they become those nurses? Why do you care if they improve as a manufacturer? Why do you care if they become a top notch engineer? And if you understand that purpose, then you going through the tough times, you going through the struggle, that is nothing. That becomes like, ah, I can get through this because my ultimate goal is ahead and I see it. So nothing's going to defer me or distract me from my goal, my purpose. So I just wanted to give that also. And why do you think with vulnerability for you, Carl, when you talk to people, what is vulnerability? And then I want us to jump into the importance of being vulnerable, and then we can start getting into some action items for folks.
Yes, absolutely. Vulnerability, of course, we just could dive right into what the dictionary says is was right exposure to harm or danger or open yourself up to those things. And I never believed that when I read that in the dictionary. Shared my story a lot of times on LinkedIn of reading the dictionary as a 5 year old and getting it as a Christmas gift. So I kind of learned how to dive into words for understanding to be applied to, not to be defined. So when I look at the dictionary and I look at the terms, they take on narratives to me. Of course, there's this global understanding of what that word means, but it doesn't apply to me like the global definition says it should. And when you find that, I find that self evaluation is what vulnerability drives. It drives you to a place of getting to know who you are. And getting to know who you are is just that, accepting who you are. A lot of times we can't do that through the course of being vulnerable because we're shameful, and that vulnerability is not there to drive shame. It's there to make correction. It's there to make you feel empowered. It's there for you to give you confidence. It's there for you to help with those self-limiting beliefs. It's all there to help you, but the dictionary says that it's not. And this is what people have grappolated to. They've grappolated to, well, that's what it says it means. That's not what it says it means to everyone who reads that definition. You have to learn how to apply it, just like you apply anything. Apply it to your life, see where it fits in, use it for your benefit, excel and grow. And this is where I teach and train with vulnerability. It is there not as a crutch, not as an obstacle, but as a guiding tool. And if you're sharing too much, your feelings will let you know. If you said too much, your feelings will let you know. So don't get into this thing where, oh, if I'm vulnerability, I got to tell everything. No, because once you start sharing in the authenticness of what vulnerability is, you realize that that's not appropriate here. That's not for here. And that's how you tend to find out how important it is to you. You'll start seeing yourself be in areas and arenas with confidence that you wasn't before. You'll start looking at your abilities in a different way. People will start valuing you much differently because you're standing in confidence. Vulnerability breeds confidence. It truly does. And what anyone else says to you about it, I would beg to differ. It breeds confidence because it's saying to you and the world, I am who I am. Now you can accept me, that's you. Or you can try to judge me, that's also you. But that does not change who I stand in. And when you have that confidence, it shows in presentation, it shows in your work, it shows in your value, and it definitely shows in the circles that you're in. People will depend on you, you'll build credibility with it, and people will want to come to you for solutions. And that's why it's important.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And the questions are coming in. I'm loving these questions. We
Yes.
have a question about And yes, I want to say I was always about this too. What is the
Mhm.
major difference between vulnerability and whining? You just complaining. It's like what's the difference?
Because
What is it?
one has nothing to do with the other. And I'm glad Robert asked this question. Whining is just that. Whining comes from the fact that you don't want to do something that's necessary to do. Whether it's necessary for you, whether it's necessary for your job, whether it's necessary for your family, you're whining about it because you don't want to do it. It has to be done. You don't want to do it. Vulnerability is not attached to that. That goes back to what the definition is and how we put it in that context. Oh man, if I'm telling you my vulnerability, I got to be whining. No, I'm telling you something that I may need help with, that I may struggle with, that you might have the answer or solution to. Thereby, I'm sharing the vulnerable part of me that says I need help. It has nothing to do with
Mhm.
whining. Whining is versus that, actually 180 degrees back the other way. I don't really
Yeah.
want to do this. That's why it's called whining. I don't want to do this. I don't want to. I don't want to go to work. You see that on Instagram. They got that. That's all over the place. They got a song out. I don't want to go to work. I don't want to go. They're whining about that. But no, in all seriousness, vulnerability is quite
Mhm.
the opposite. Vulnerability is just me telling you, I don't know how to do a website, Charlene. That doesn't take anything away from my value. Doesn't take anything away from a person. It's just highlighting the weakness that I have. And you have a strength. What do we do with strength and weaknesses? We pair them together so we can build
Mhm.
solutions.
Yes, and we have some great comments to this as well
Yes.
about,
Charles.
from Charles, being vulnerable helps you to learn about yourself. It's experimental learning. Often the lessons come
And
afterwards.
that's
And
where
that's
we get
that's
mixed
true.
up at. The lessons come afterward in everything you do. But we place
Mhm.
so much on trying to learn vulnerability ahead of the fact. If you go to your job and
Yes.
you learn something, the lesson of learning what you do to work, it comes afterward. If you go to school to learn a skill, it comes afterward, right? And we don't put any
Mhm.
more difference in that as far order than we do with vulnerability. We put that, oh man, I ain't gonna be vulnerable. Well, a lesson is gonna come
Child.
after that. And if you want to be a learner of self, because this is what vulnerability teaches us, vulnerability don't teach you nothing about nobody else. It don't teach me about
Mhm.
Charlene. It don't teach me about Rob. It don't teach me about Charles. Thanks for that. It doesn't. Vulnerability teaches me about me. It teaches me where I need growth in, where I need help in, and who
Mhm.
that I identify with that can provide that. That's all that vulnerability does.
And I think we also missed a point of vulnerability also means that you're being vulnerable enough, and it doesn't always have to be public. You're being
No,
vulnerable enough to take action on something that you're not sure about. So for me, it was jumping on video, right? That was already a vulnerable spot for me because in my mind I had a lot of things, I had a lot of narratives playing. So one of them was this is going to be here forever. So how is this good enough? What's happening? Am I saying enough? Am I saying too much? So that was already one step. And another one was to do lives. Like, oh shoot, now everybody and their mama's gonna see there. But then really it's not. It's like barely a fraction of the world sees a majority of these lives that everybody does. So it's like, how are you going to now allow yourself to get past those hurdles, those mental hurdles, so you can actually come out and do something that you're unsure of and just see where it takes you, being vulnerable and open enough to allow things to take change and help you build and learn, because a lot of times we know that if you're not doing something different, are you really learning anything? Maybe not. So
not
you
yet.
don't want to be stuck in the same old all the time.
And what you just said, and that's the attachment of it, and that's what everybody carries. And I want everybody that's watching me to understand and to hear this. What she said is all attached to that. We attach vulnerability with shame because it produces an uncertainty in what we've done, uncertainty of what someone else will say. And that's
Hmm.
where, oh my God, that's where we lose. That's where we lose. And like it's like a light bulb to me, and I guess because I've been doing this so long, I get excited about it. It's a light bulb to me because when you realize that you have that power and no one else does, man, your life does a 360. And I'm not saying in a magic
Hmm.
trick. I'm just talking about your narrative of the value that you are, the difference that you make. And it can be in anything that you do in the industry. I think Andrea asked that before. How can it cross any industry? It can cross anything that you go into. It doesn't
Yes.
have any boundaries. But we put our boundaries on who we can really be because we say just what Charlene said, oh, it's gonna be out there forever. It's gonna,
Yes.
isn't everything out there forever? Any mistake that you've made, isn't it out there
Talk
forever?
about it.
Why? Because somebody
Talk
don't
about
know
it.
it, mean it went away. Still that
Mm-hmm.
same person. So when you're empowered by that and that guides you, say, you know what? 10 years ago, I was a drunken fool in the military or whatever the situation may be. Now I'm a law student. I'm going forward. I have a business. Yo, that's called
Mm-hmm.
growth. Vulnerability breeds
Yes.
growth.
Yeah. And man, we always have like deeper conversations and it takes a minute. So I wanted us to
Yeah,
not miss some the action points, right? So we're gonna
absolutely.
get back to some of these amazing comments. But I wanted to get into the action points of how does this show up also for your website, right? And in your life. When you're opening up doors as well. And you could use your about page for this. You can use your about page to explain the journey that you've taken to become the business that you currently are. A lot of times you will see this done in timelines. Companies will have timelines of their historical transformation. Some companies will tell you, you know, a short blurb of why they started and then who they are now, and then they introduce you to the team. So there's so many different ways to really implement this, and you're opening up. And like Carl said, it's not about whining. It's not about telling everything, but it's about allowing people to understand why you're even in existence. A lot of times that brings us a little closer, especially we're not Amazon. We're smaller businesses. So we're people that are behind the scenes, and you want others to understand who you are as well. So when you do blow up, when you become a symbol, when you become known as a symbol, people say, you know what, I remember when. I remember I was able to talk to so and so. I spoke to them. I was able to meet up with them. I did a Zoom with these people, and now look at where they are. And that helps you because people know that you were a person, you were a business owner that was deeper. You went deeper than just the dollars. You went deeper than just to collect bodies. And when I say collect bodies, I mean some people
Yeah, get off the dirt.
you're just on the spreadsheet for them. They don't care. They just want to say how many followers they have. They just want to say how much dollars they brought in for the quarter. But literally they can go back and they don't remember a face to a name. They don't remember you because they didn't try to build with you on an authentic level. So that's part of where opening up can help you open doors, and you can use your about page as an example on how to do that.
Yeah, because your about page should be the examples of why vulnerability has created credibility in what you do.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what vulnerability does. If someone's vulnerable to me, I'm already credible. They already showed me that they're a credible individual. Now you say that there are scammers and are those, and I don't want to go too far into that aspect of that because we're talking about the positiveness of it. There are those that will try to use that. But the thing about it is vulnerability is very transparent. So if you have any discernment in you, that story won't last. That individual won't last. And what they're trying to put over on you won't last. So have I been taken before? Absolutely. Absolutely. I've been scammed a couple
Mhm.
times. Right. So,
Yeah.
but I'm still aware and I'm still keen and I'm still looking and testing things. Why? Because that's a part of growth. So that scam comes education. With that scam come knowledge. With that scam come learning. And now that has prepared me for the next step in the journey. This is what vulnerability does. It allows you to grow. And I love what
Mm.
Carla puts there. We didn't have any problem being vulnerable as kids. I oftentimes use about this chair that I'm sitting on. I did not check out this chair before I sat down to see if it would hold me. I trusted it. I was vulnerable
Right.
enough to understand that it's a chair. It was meant for me to sit. The same way with things in you. You are meant to grow. You are meant to shine. You are meant to have value. So trust in
Mhm.
those things. And regardless of the mistakes, they're still you.
Yes,
True,
yes,
Scott.
I
True.
love that. I love that. So, and then that takes us into, of course,
Next
letting
up.
the real you shine. And
Oh,
what's a better way to do that on your website but through a video? I keep saying that,
video.
folks. Don't be afraid of the video.
That's it. That's it. We need new
It doesn't
puppies
have
in our life. We need new puppies all
no.
up in the
It
video.
doesn't it doesn't have to be an hour long. It
Yeah,
doesn't. Just an introduction to who you are. People
absolutely.
get to see you, get to understand your vibe. They get to see your personality so much faster through a video. So, like I said, you guys are giving so much juiciness to social media. And then when we get to your website, we like, yes, let me come
Who
see
are
who
you?
you are. And then you dry, you
Ashy,
bland,
ashy
you
dry.
ashy, you just like, ugh, like who is this? And I'm scrolling for hours trying to figure out, is this the same website? Is this the same person? I don't even see a photo on here. Like, but you changing your profile photo every 2 seconds on social media, and I can't find one photo of you on your website. Something's missing. Something's off. Something is disconnected. So being vulnerable enough to connect yourself to your business. And a lot of times I kind of think about that. I'm like, if you're not even putting your picture on here, you're not putting a video about you on here, are you not really truly believing in this business? Because if I look you up, and we all do this, we all find a name, we find a person we like, and then they say, oh, I'm in business. Like, oh, really? Okay, let me look you up. Let me go to your website, right? All of us say that. So to now put in your mind that you not only, if you have a website, its main purpose is just to be words and just to represent you through bland conversation, or just a block of text. You now are disconnecting yourself. Maybe subconsciously you're not even understanding or realizing this. You're kind of disconnecting yourself from your own business. It's like you don't even want to be associated. It's like we friends, but we not really friends. Like, so you don't want to do that. You want to put your all into it. And especially as a small business, you want people to say, when I go to this website, I see it's you. That's who I'm doing business with. If you have a team, then you put your team up. If you have a remote team, maybe your team is so big, then you don't need to really put the entire team up one by one, but you can do group photos of the team. You can do things like that. That's a lot of companies have done that. You'll see group shots of the team, but there's always a human element to that. And I feel I don't want you to ever think that you're going to miss that. Never miss out on the human element, the opportunity to put a human touch to your website. And video is such an amazing way to allow the real you to shine. And Carl, can you give us like maybe like 1 minute on
Yeah,
what you think on this, and
yeah,
then we'll get into the deep dive.
yeah. You covered that great. It does just what it does. It allows you to shine. You,
Hmm.
100% you. You're in that video, whether it's mistakenly made, maybe you stutter. People see real you, and people don't. I don't care how much likes they get on these crafted figures, these these financial tremendously pages that's put together with all of this
Yep.
nonsense. People are looking at your stuff as entertainment. And if you're an entrepreneur, businesspreneur, or whatever you are, and you're a leader, whatever your title may be, you want credibility. You don't
Yes.
want nobody to look at
Yes.
you as a falsehood. And these are the things that'll make you that. If somebody see me talking and I stumble or whatever, they're like, "Oh yeah, go ahead, man. I do that," and people can relate. So that relatability brings credibility, and that credibility brings you sales. So if you can get those things together and on a video and let people see you, like now how we are now, people seeing the interaction, they seeing how I respond to a question, how I talk to you, how I carry myself, and then they have some kind of visual to see. Yeah, this may be somebody I might want to work with. Not look at your Instagram
Mhm.
and then go to your website and you on Instagram talking about all of this and get on your website and they can't even see your name. They don't even know your name. So it's a sad state of affairs.
Yes, yes. And then with that, I'm gonna say let's take it to the deep dive. And what does a deep dive look like? So, okay, you gave them a touch about who you are, why you do this, and you went into a little bit of your background in your about page. Then you took it to welcome videos, or just videos. Maybe you did an about video, and you're giving them a little bit more insight and allowing them to see who you really are. So now a deep dive, what would that look like on a website? That would actually look like, let me tell you how I stumbled through. So, and this also goes well when you want to start getting people on your email list. So you want to start sending people little snippets about this and say, hey, want to learn a little bit about me? Welcome to my email list. Um, and a lot of times they call it the welcome series, the warming up moments, right? And instead of you doing a long email, because some people, we just don't want to read a whole long stuff on our phones. That's just how we are. So you can give them maybe 3 paragraphs about that and then say, hey, you know what? Learn more about me here, and you give them a link to your blog. And then your blog is now following the series of you welcoming somebody into your world, you welcoming them onto your website or your email list, and that allows them to get to know you. And then you can even have a series of the mistakes I've learned, how I've gotten through when those tough times come, and then that can also match what you're doing in your business. So let's say a season comes, Valentine's Day is coming, right? So you're telling them, yo, you know what, when I first was tried to launch a product, I tried to do it on Valentine's Day. I didn't know what I was doing. Learn more about how I got over, and did I or did I not fail through my first challenge? Oh, how did I get better as I'm learning how to market? Those are those type of stories that if I'm reading it on my email, I'm like, yeah, I want to know more. And then I click. That brings me back to your website. But you're not, instead of you sending me to a video on a social media platform that, let's say something happens, you have music in the background and YouTube said, sorry, you got you got music and what is it, enfranchisement, something like that. So
Um,
they mute your whole video. So now you got a video out there and you sending people to this video that your voice can't even be heard because you have music on the background and they flagged you
Copyright
for jacking
infringement. I
somebody's
got you.
song. You didn't give credit. Like, oh, snap. Okay, really? Are we doing this? So that you battling with that platform, you trying to figure out, okay, well, where do I send them? That's why I say let it be the end game, your website. Let that blog be the end game for you, that people get to learn more about you. And then they start learning about your products. They start learning about your services. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? And you can always change those things up because that's what those blogs are for. The blogs are for you to experiment. They're for you to play around with, go deeper and see, okay, maybe I don't do it on my main business pages, but now I can play around on my blog and say, oh, I want to show a little bit of my family, or I want to show you when I travel, see when I go around the world and tell you about these restaurants that I've been to. I love these things. And then you give a little more insight to you and say, you know, these were company trips. This is what we did. We had a conference and we did this and that. You could do all of that on your blog. You can do all of that and give them that insight to say, wow, not only is it a person behind this, but look at how they treat their team. Look at how they treat their clients. Oh, wait, did they send a goodie bag? Is that what the goodie bag looked like? I can't wait to be a client with them. Oh, this is what they, all of those, you're giving them that adventure, and then it lives in one place. It lives in a space that you control. So no matter what, you don't have to care about algorithms. You don't have to care about anybody competing with you for attention. It's all on your terms. So you really want to think about that. And
Absolutely.
Carl, what you got to
A
say?
deep dive. I'm gonna keep it short because I know we want to keep our program to what it is. But this is a topic that we could definitely go on and on and on about, especially me because I'm passionate
Maybe we
about it.
should have a twofer.
Oh
But I
wow! I
think
mean,
this is this is really a little bit insight of what our next series is about. Our next
yes, because
series
we're
is going
gonna
to
dive in
be focusing on vulnerability and all the different aspects of it.
and
So it's not
moving
even just
forward.
website related.
Yeah.
It's really going to be on all the insights. But you'll find out more about that. So
Yes,
give us the
stay tuned.
closeout.
I would say on the blog that is excellent. If you read my blog, and I put my link to my blog from my website in there. I carry you through everything on that blog. All of it is vulnerability related. All of it is not oversharing, but I do share case studies. I do share things that happened to me personally. I share
Mhm.
journeys that I've made that I've overcome. Things that have happened to me that has broadened my horizons, have changed the way I view things. And our perspective is what makes or breaks us. How we view things is what makes or breaks us. I can't say that enough. It's how we view things that makes or breaks us. And I know that may sound like a broken record, but it is. Your perspective of what a circumstance is will be the same direction you take in trying to overcome that circumstance. If I believe that I can overcome this obstacle, I'm going to take the necessary steps to do that. But when I ride back and let that obstacle continue to block me, I'm standing behind that obstacle and it's impeding on the life I need to live. And I'm not talking about from a standpoint of just this wealth and greatness. I'm talking about a fulfilled life, being happy, doing the things that you want to do, being empowered, and making impact. Because this is what I was born for. I'm not sure what you were. But I was born for that. So the blog is a definitely good place to share your story. Share something that someone may read. That's why they're so good. That's why they're so legendary. People love blogs because they love to hear not only from the bad part, but the good parts. What happened to somebody? How did they overcome that? The dredges and the dark places in their life. How did you get through? Blogs provide that information. They're not just articles for information and numbers, they're articles for life, for people overcoming, for being inspired. So they provide a lot, and it's a lot that you went through. I guess if you take a self evaluation of over the past 10 years of your life, everyone that's watching this, and look at all the things you've overcome, somebody needs to know that you overcame them. You don't have to put the missing details. You don't have to put it all out in a frame by frame Hollywood movie. But you need to put in there, this is what happened. This is what I went through. This is how I overcame. Those are the stories of our lives. And people need to hear that so they can move forward in those obstacles that they're facing right now.
Yes, and I think that's a great way for us to end and wrap this
Yes.
up. And I wanted to give a quick shout to
Shout out.
my friend from he from college, yo. So he know
Shout
me.
it out. Giddy up.
Gideon
Shout out,
Moncrief.
man.
He
Giddy,
is
you
the
got your
one who
300? That's that, that's that
he's the
Bible
one
dude.
who he's the one who showed me how to get the camera because he got me to get the Logitech camera and this panel light. So I appreciate that, brother. Thank you.
Yes, I ain't want to keep seeing her in the dark, Gideon. I appreciate you, brother.
Why you always got to get shady? You know, we was about to end off on a nice note.
Yo,
I'm gonna
Martin
deal with you
Cam,
at. I'm gonna
Martin
deal with you in
Cam.
the
That's what we
backstage. I'm
do.
gonna deal
That's
with
what
you
we do.
backstage. But I just want to thank you
Mhm.
all for
Yes.
being part of this. We're about to wrap this up right now, and I just wanted to let you know that we just gave you a bunch of examples on how we broke this myth of being vulnerable is you being weak. No, you showing your vulnerability is not you being weak. Never allow somebody to take your vulnerability and play it against you, because that's I'll say I'll wrap it up this way
Yes.
and say, if you have not, please go and watch 8 Mile with Eminem. Because when he, towards the end, when you saw how he flipped his vulnerabilities into his strength and then removed the power from someone who was trying to get at him, that's what I want you guys to start doing. Start using your vulnerability and take it away from people. Remove that power where people can use it against you. And people only use your vulnerability against you when they feel that it's going to break you. Never allow somebody that kind of power, right? So I want y'all to enjoy the rest of your Friday. And of course, bring your weekend in with a bang. We'll see y'all next Friday.
Yes,
Bye.